This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM. Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. It is the first official day of free agency. As of 12 noon today, Eastern Standard Time, teams were free to sign with teams they verbally committed to since July 1st. That means if LeBron James finally comes off a vacation in Italy, he can sign with the Lakers. It means Chris Paul for the Houston Rockets can sign his deal. It means Trevor Ariza can sign his 1-year, $15 million deal with the Phoenix Suns, a deal he felt compelled to take since the Houston Rockets weren't going to give him any money because they didn't want to go deeper into the luxury tax after agreeing to a 4-year, $160 million deal with Chris Paul. Not to mention having to talk to Clint Capella and ultimately reach an agreement with him. You got to get him signed. That's clearly a priority. So you got all of that going on. Paul George can agree to his 4-year deal for $137 million with an opt-out after year 3. The list goes on and on and on, no matter where you turn. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're getting down to. I would love to tell you that the New York Knicks are a part of this equation. I would love to follow the habits of the sports pages in New York and elsewhere. But the reality of the situation is the New York Knicks are not a player in all of this right now. They're bit players. They're completely irrelevant in all of this. Their time comes next summer. For now, the priority for the New York Knicks is making sure to develop Kevin Knox and to do everything that you can. I don't care how many trips you need to take to Latvia or Lithuania or wherever the hell Kristaps Porzingis is. You got to go where he's at. You got to make sure you got the best medical staff available with you. And you have to do everything to ensure that Kristaps Porzingis is going to be healthy. So once he's healthy, he can step on the court. And you have to do everything that you can to make sure he steps on the court sometime next season. I would say by February. Kristaps Porzingis needs to be in the Knicks uniform by the All-Star break, capable of playing the last 2 months of the season. That way he'll have an opportunity to showcase his skills, to let everybody know indeed he has returned, thereby enticing a marquee free agent to want to come to New York. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have it on very, very good authority. As I reported yesterday with the whole Damian Lillard situation, he wants to be in Portland. Ideally, life is good for him in Portland because combined with his salary paying him over $27 million, he's also collecting enough dough where he's raking in over $40 million a year in Portland because he's the face of literally the Pacific Northwest. Because that's the only basketball team they have out there in the NBA, because the Seattle Supersonics are now the Oklahoma City Thunder, and as a result, the Portland Trailblazers are the only team in the Pacific Northwest. So all the endorsement dollars from that area come to Damian Lillard first. Not to say that CJ McCollum and others don't get a piece of it, but they all come to Damian Lillard first. His preference would be to stay in Portland, but he recognizes they're not going to be able to improve this team. And as a result, if indeed they would have come to him willing to move him, because he clearly is not going to ask to be traded out of Portland at this particular juncture, he's got 2 targets, the Lakers or the Knicks. I have it on very good authority that Damian Lillard would prefer the New York Knicks. He doesn't think they have the assets. He doesn't think they can pull it off from what I'm being told. But Damian Lillard, if he had his druthers, would rather be a New York Knick than a part of the circus that's with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, that's not to say he wouldn't go to the Lakers. It's not to say he wouldn't thrive with the Lakers. It's not to say that he wouldn't find a way to make the situation work with the Lakers. But if he had his preference, I am being told on good authority that Damian Lillard, if you put him at the table and said to him, you have your pick of the litter, the Knicks or the Lakers, he would pick the New York Knicks. He would rather play with Kristaps Porzingis than he would with LeBron James. I have it on very good authority that is the case. Now, some would sit up there and say, why the hell was that? Because everybody expects the Lakers to be an absolute circus this year. An absolute circus. And believe it or not, Damian Lillard, if what I'm being told is correct, and I sincerely doubt I am wrong on this. A matter of fact, I'm willing to say I'm damn near 100% right on this. He might be the first athlete that I have ever heard that considers something more of a circus than New York. Certainly in the James Dolan era of running the New York Knicks. But Damian Lillard would prefer to be a New York Knick than he would prefer to be a Los Angeles Lakers, although he would accept either scenario. He would prefer the New York Knicks. So if you're Steve Mills, you're Scott Perry, you're David Fizdale, you have no assets really. You got Courtney Lee, you got Tim Hardaway Jr., you got Frank Ntilikina, and not much else. I don't know what you can do to pry Damian Lillard away from Portland, but I would strongly suggest that you pick up the phone and try. Because Damian Lillard would come to New York now, even without Kristaps Porzingis being healthy. I'm telling you what I know. 888-SAY-ESPN, that's 888-729-3776. Now that I got that out the way, let me get to this Melo talk, this talk of Carmelo Anthony. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. Carmelo Anthony is scheduled to be let go by the Oklahoma City Thunder. We just don't know which route they're going to take. They could elect to trade him. They could elect to use their stretch option and waive him. Whatever the case may be, Carmelo Anthony is not going to be in Oklahoma City Thunder this season. Once their relationship with one another is officially ended, it'll deliver the Thunder over $100 million in cost savings. Remember, he opted into the $27.9 million. You got luxury tax issues to consider if you are the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the fact that their payroll is so high, getting rid of Carmelo Anthony alone saves them 9 figures. He's gone. He will not be in Oklahoma City Thunder this year. So the question is, where's the ideal situation for Carmelo Anthony to be? Initially, my thought was L.A. It's LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, who has been bounced out of the first round 9 times, has missed the playoffs 4 times, has gone to 1 semifinals appearance, actually 2, I'm sorry, and 1 conference finals in his career, has never played in an NBA finals. I was thinking LeBron. And then I forgot. Silly me. As tight as Melo is with LeBron, it is nothing compared to what his relationship is like with Chris Paul. He's actually tighter with Chris Paul than he is with LeBron James. Even though D-Wade, LeBron, Chris Paul, and Melo are all tight, the clique that is D-Wade and LeBron is also CP3 and Melo. Melo and CP3 are tight with one another. That is the truth. And they're that tight. When you combine that with the fact that Trevor Ariza is no longer there, and you're the Houston Rockets, and you can get Melo, whether it be for a mid-level exception or a veteran minimum, after he's bought out in some capacity, well, now you got something here. There's a relationship with Daryl Morey and the Houston Rockets that were already established last summer when Melo was trying to get his behind to Houston. That didn't materialize because they couldn't get the Knicks to take Ryan Anderson's $60 million contract over the next 3 years at $20 million per. So it didn't happen, and he ended up getting shipped out of New York to Oklahoma City. But now that he had his 1 year expedition in Oklahoma City and he's about to be gone from that, Melo will have the choice of being in L.A. or Houston. Has a home in L.A., but that's not going to be a factor from what I'm told. What's going to be a factor is the fact he's tight with CP3. Houston was where he wanted to be to begin with. They have no state income tax, which means that the money that he's getting paid or that he's losing by being bought out by Oklahoma City, he'll more than make up for by going to Houston instead of paying not only 39.6% in federal income taxes, well, I think it's dropped down to 35, but then you also got the 12.3% state income tax in L.A., California. But more so than that, Ariza's gone. So Melo would be in Houston. He'd likely be a starter with Harden, with CP3, with PJ Tucker and Clint Capella. And as a result, that might be a more ideal landing spot, not to mention the fact that with Melo there, with CP3 and James Harden, obviously they're confident they'd still be better than the Lakers. And they think they'd be good enough to beat Golden State because even though Melo ain't the defender that Trevor Ariza is, chances are with CP3 and Harden on the floor with him, he ain't gonna go 0 for 9 from 3-point range in a game 7 of a conference finals like Ariza did against the Warriors. So it's one of those situations where if you're Melo, you got to sit back and make a decision. And ladies and gentlemen, I ask you a simple question. If you were Melo, what would you do? Would you go to Houston and join your buddy CP3 along with Harden, along with Capella and PJ Tucker? Would you stomach playing for Mike D'Antoni again, who you didn't have the greatest relationship with when you were in New York because he never wanted you there to begin with? He never wanted to give up Danilo Gallinari and Wilson Chandler and all of those boys to get Carmelo Anthony. One would argue that was the reason Mike D'Antoni ultimately lost his job in New York. Is bygones bygones? Can Melo flourish with D'Antoni in Houston? I'd say yes, because CP3 and James Harden are there. And he's not the number one option, nor is he the face of the franchise, so it would be a different relationship. But then there is L.A. There is LeBron. And the fact that Rondo and Stevenson and these boys are on the squad now, keep in mind what that means. Some people will sit up there and say, well, look, Stephen A., that's a bad situation because there aren't really any shooters in L.A. Well, that's the point, isn't it? If it isn't any shooters, who's going to be taking most of the jump shots? Kuzma, LeBron, and Melo, if he were in L.A., so would that be a better situation than Houston? And here's another question. If you're the Golden State Warriors, what scenario do you fear most? Do you fear Carmelo in L.A. with LeBron? And I shouldn't say fear because Golden State ain't scared of anybody. They're the reigning 2-time defending NBA champions. It's not like they're really, really worried. They know they're going to have tough matchups, but it's not like they're scared they can't beat somebody. Let's put stuff in its proper perspective here. But I guess what I'm asking you is this. If you're the Golden State Warriors, what would give you more concern or more cause to pause? With Boogie Cousins, with Kevin Durant, with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Steph Curry, what would you be worried about most? Carmelo with LeBron, Kuzma and Rondo and Stevenson and those boys? Would you be worried about them? Or would you be worried about Melo in a Houston Rockets uniform with CP3 or James Harden? Now, notice I didn't bring up Philly because I got news for you. I can't rule out Philly because, again, I think Melo would pick Houston or L.A. over Philly. But if we're talking about Philly being bona fide and being contenders, what's been the problem with Philly? Other than Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they've got spot-up shooters. Nobody that could put the ball on the floor and create their own shot. Now, Melo is not what he used to be, and there's no questioning that. But in Philadelphia, he could potentially thrive, one would argue. I'd say no. And the reason I'd say no is because of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons hasn't developed the jump shot yet. Once he develops a jump shot, he's LeBron 2.0. He's LeBron part deux. But without that jump shot, Ben Simmons is neutralizing a half-court offense. And he's not going to get a bunch of people open shots to the degree that he could if he had a jump shot. If you could lay off of him and cheat a little bit because he can't shoot from the perimeter, that's problematic. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons Philadelphia has had problems getting anybody worth noting in free agency. The only thing they've really done in free agency thus far is re-sign J.J. Redick at half the price you had him for last year. That's it. So I look at it from that perspective, and I'll tell you that in my mind, for Melo, it comes down to Houston or L.A., with Houston having the edge. I expect this stuff to be finalized within a matter of days, if not a matter of hours. Either way you slice it, here's the deal. If you're LA, there's a reason to be optimistic because you're a part of every story. You're a part of the Kawhi Leonard story. You're a part of the Damian Lillard story. You're a part of the Carmelo Anthony story. So everybody's talking about the Lakers again. See what life is like when Jim Buss ain't running your franchise? And you don't have to go to Hooters to look for your executive vice president? See what life is like? But in the case of the Knicks, it's about what might have been. You look at Melo, and I remember when he arrived at the Garden and he came out of that tunnel. I was there that night, and the New York Knicks fans were going absolutely berserk when he had finally gotten traded from Denver. We had a star. He was the biggest star the Knicks had since Patrick Ewing. And you just fantasized. Mike Woodson, a year later after Mike D'Antoni was gone, guided them to 54 wins in the season. Mike Woodson guided them to their first division crown in over a decade, their first playoff series victory in 13 years. And the New York Knicks haven't done a damn thing since. Since underachieving against the Indiana Pacers in that second round, losing to Paul George and Roy Hibbert and these boys, they ain't been the same. And so now we have a situation where we got to look forward and we got to say, okay, what is this? Where do the New York Knicks go from here? I'll tell you where they go. The priority has to be getting Porzingis healthy. Get on the phone, try to get Damian Lillard. You won't get him. You don't have enough to get him, but try anyway. Exercise futility if you must, just to show good effort. Don't be negligent like Phil Jackson was. Do that. Outside of that, get Kristaps Porzingis healthy. Because if you get him healthy, ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. You get Kristaps Porzingis healthy, and he looks like he did last year before getting hurt. New York Knicks, with the cap space that they're going to have to get a max player next summer, is going to be an attractive landing spot for somebody. And Kyrie Irving is the type of personality that would embrace and accept the challenge of being the new franchise dude for the New York Knicks. He'd accept that challenge. That's who he is. It's what he's made for. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, there's news about Kyrie Irving right now. Some report from The Athletic about how he never wanted LeBron here in Cleveland and all of this other stuff. Chances are that's true, but this is much I will tell you. Kyrie never said anything, nor did he ever demand a trade until last summer. Kyrie did sign his $90 million extension before knowing that LeBron was returning to Cleveland. And he wasn't the most excited person in the world that LeBron James was coming on board and taking, quote unquote, his franchise. And he didn't like being in the position of having to go up against a man who was returning home. Not only was he the best player in the world, but he was returning home. Biggest story in the world of sports. So Kyrie couldn't compete with that, but he never demanded to be traded at that time, never asked him to be traded. He knew that a championship was on the horizon, saw the forest from the trees, and had plotted and planned for last summer. And that's what happened. I don't need to get any further than that because that's just the truth. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll continue to talk about these subjects Hour number 2, I'm going to have my man Ice Cube with the Big Three coming on in hour number 2, not just to talk about that, but to also talk about LeBron joining the Lakers. Definitely interested in getting his take on all of that. But before I even go to break, I wanted to touch on President Donald Trump. I told y'all he wasn't finished with the NFL. I told y'all he wasn't. Had a rally yesterday in Montana campaigning for Republican Senate candidate Matt Rosendale. And obviously he took that as an opportunity to touch on the NFL and the players and the NFL's stance on the whole national anthem thing. Listen to what the president of the United States had to say.
Hey, how about the NFL? Look, I don't want to cause controversy. You're right. USA is right. I don't want to cause controversy, but how about they pass this stupid thing? You don't have to do this anymore. If you don't respect the flag or if you don't like the country or whatever it is, just go into the locker room. Just go into the I think in many respects, that's worse. Isn't that worse than not standing? You know? I think that's worse. So they say, go into the locker room. It's okay, the anthem's getting ready to play. They run into the locker room. Then they come back out. You know what? It doesn't play. It doesn't play. I actually think in many ways it's worse. I heard this thing that they were so happy, the owners. This commissioner, where this guy comes from, I have no idea. They're paying him $40 million a year, and their ratings are down 20%. But you know why the ratings are down? Yes, the flag. But they're also down because people find politics. In other words, hitting Trump incorrectly, but hitting Trump, they find that to be much tougher, meaner, and more interesting than watching a football game. They actually do. And they're watching the cable networks instead of watching football.
Did I not tell y'all he wasn't finished with the NFL? President Trump, Donald Trump, forgets nothing, particularly his enemies. And he has considered the NFL an enemy for a long time. From the time they wouldn't let him in as an owner when he was owning the USFL's New Jersey Generals, and he wanted to sue the NFL, hoping to position himself to become an NFL owner. And then in 2014, when he wanted to own the Buffalo Bills, and they would have let him in his good old boys club. And he was on the phone with yours truly, Stephen A. Smith, saying, and I quote, if they don't let me in, I'll just run for president. That's what he said. And lo and behold, he's run and he's won. And now he's going after the NFL. And here's the irony in all of this. His comment about it's not just about the anthem. It's about people finding folks attacking him more interesting on television than actually watching football games. He actually might have a point. Donald Trump could actually make a good argument that he gets better ratings, or ratings, at least ratings that compromise the ratings that the NFL used to get. He might have put a dent in their ratings. He actually has a good point. I can't deny it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Back with your calls and more in a minute.
I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it.
What is it, Linda?
I think we should see other people.
Are you breaking up with me? On a roller coaster?
Well, we do have a lot of fun. Maybe we should stay together.
An emotional roller coaster? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
I just need a little me time.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
888-SAY-ESPN is always the number to call up. This 888-729-3776. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Lots to get into as the official signing day for the NBA free agency period began today at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. So let's get to the phones. Let's go to Kevin. Staten Island, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. Talk to me.
Good. Listen, I wanted to talk more about Melo, and I think Houston is a better look for him. rather than L.A. Last thing he needs is to be in the circus. Also in Houston, I think he can build himself up back to be one of the elites. Do you think possible maybe him going back to the East Coast any chance?
I personally think it's going to be Houston or L.A.
Okay.
That's my personal belief. I think it's going to be Houston or L.A.
Okay. Do you think it's any factor? The fact that I'm actually asking you is, do you think he can build himself up by going back to
No, it ain't about building yourself up. You ain't what you used to be. He averaged 24 points per game for his career. Okay? But the reality of the situation is that in the 16 years that he has been in the National Basketball Association, which I would remind y'all all was the same exact draft as LeBron James, he's been bounced out in the first round 9 times. He's missed the playoffs 4 times. Okay? And then he's also been to the conference semifinals just twice and to a 1 conference finals.
Right.
And he has never played in an NBA finals. So for me, Melo got his money because he's always going to get his money now. But outside of that, his priority should be finding the best spot to win a championship. To at least get to an NBA finals, for crying out loud.
Right. I agree with you 100%.
I mean, you got to remember, Patrick Ewing lost in the finals. Karl Malone lost in the finals. John Stockton lost in the finals. Gary Payton, even though he ultimately won a championship when he was with Miami in the latter part of his career, he had been to the finals when he was a star with Seattle. Sean Kemp had been to a finals. Reggie Miller had been to a finals. Chris Mullin had been to a finals. Okay? It is Charles Barkley had been to a finals. When you talk about marquee, big-time offensive superstars in the NBA at one point in time and another, okay, the only 2, and I shouldn't say the only 2 because I might be missing a name or 2, but the 2 names that come to your mind that never played in an NBA finals was Carmelo Anthony and Chris Webber.
Okay.
I mean, who else? Who am I missing? I'm talking about that never played in an NBA finals. That never at least won their conference. It's Carmelo Anthony. It's Chris Webber. And I personally want that to change for Melo because I got a lot of love for Melo. But Melo's mistake hasn't been about basketball. Melo's mistake is that Melo has been about the money. He had an opportunity to be a part of that 2010 free agent class, but decided to sign a 5-year deal with Denver in 2007 because he was hell-bent on getting every cent of that $80 million. He wasn't taking any chances. He wanted the $80 million, and they weren't going to give him an opt-out if he wanted all of that money. So he took the money. Okay? He was supposed to be with LeBron and D-Wade, not Chris Bosh.
Serious?
Then he was with the Knicks. That's right. It was supposed to be him, not Chris Bosh. Then, obviously, you had a situation where in 2010 and beyond, or 11 rather, he made sure he got his money from the Knicks. But then you had an opportunity to be a free agent again, and you chose the money. So everywhere you've turned, Melo has made sure he got his money. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point in time, it's got to matter to you that a talent that was that great, at least at one point in time in his career, has never even played in an NBA Finals.
Yeah, I agree. 100. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's go to Chris in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. Happy Friday. Two quick things. I want to touch on the Carmelo going to Houston. I think that's a good fit for him, but I think it's a terrible fit for the Rockets, Stephen A. And let me tell you why. I know that you explained that Ariza with the bad game he had in Game 7, but you got to think about all the other things he brings to the table for the Rockets. He kind of glues that team together along with P.J. Tucker. You get a guy like Carmelo who comes in, who's kind of a ball stopper. You got James and Chris who dominate the basketball. If he's not making shots, I don't feel like he really brings anything else to the table. Man, he starts to pout, and the Eagles and stuff get involved.
Well, stop right there. You would have a point if we're asking you to choose between the two. But because of the contract they paid CP3 and the contract they're looking to trade to pay Clint Capella, they had to lose Trevor Ariza to the 1-year, $15 million deal with the Phoenix Suns. So the point is that it's not that you're choosing Melo over Ariza. You're saying because Ariza is gone, Based on what else is out there, who else is a better fit for Houston than Melo? And when you talk about him being a ball stopper, well, chances are you ain't going to be able to pull that off with Harden and CP3 on the court with you, A. And B, when you talk about his pouting or his attitude, all right, he just saying he didn't sign up to come off the bench. He had already gone to Oklahoma City. He was supposed to be a 3. They asked him to switch to the 4. That didn't turn out to be good for him. His game suffered, and then they tried to get him to come off the bench. He wasn't having that. But you're not playing with CP3 if you're in Oklahoma City. You'd be playing with him if you're in Houston.
Right. I mean, everything you're saying is right, valid, and it all makes sense, Stephen A. But we all say he wants to win, but I don't feel like he does the necessary things to help the team win. So, but that's just my opinion. But look, can I jump to Damian Lillard real quick, Stephen A? I know you mentioned the Knicks is his preferred destination
for Damian Lillard. For Damian Lillard, yes.
Yeah. I feel that. What's the difference between Portland and New York besides the markets? Number one, even if he goes to the Knicks, him and Porzingis is still not enough to win the East. That's number one. And number two, you spoke on many occasions, not many free agents want to come play for James Dolan. So what is the difference between him leaving or him staying in Portland? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, markets matter, number one. Number two, his whole belief is that there's an upside. You got to remember, he wants to stay in Portland. But he understands that Portland gets the fact they just got swept by the New Orleans Pelicans. And people in the West has gotten better. New Orleans is still strong. Picking up Julius Randle doesn't hurt them. The Lakers have LeBron now. All right. Utah is still relevant and on the come up. Oklahoma City retained Paul George. And then when you look at Golden State and Houston, they are what they are. So Portland can't get any marquee free agents to want to come and play with them. So the belief is that if we can't get better, they're going to have to make a change. I'm not asking out if I'm Damian Lillard, but I'm open to the change. And if I'm open to the change, where do I want to go? And New York and L.A. are the two places that I want to go. But I'd rather go to New York because it's less of a circus. It's more me and Porzingis' team. Plus, I think we'd be able to attract other free agents there.
You do believe they'll be able to attract free agents there?
I think the combination of those two, yes, I do.
Okay, would they be a top 4 team in the West if Damian Lillard was to go to Porzingis without anybody else? I still don't believe they'll be a top 4 team. I'm in the East. I'm sorry, top 4 team in the East.
Well, it's not a matter what you believe. It's a matter what Damian believes.
Okay.
He believes they would.
Okay.
You think Damian Lillard believes that he and Porzingis team up together and they ain't going to be a top 4 team in the East?
Well, I mean, I don't know, because I still don't think that they would be good enough to beat Boston or Philly.
Hold on. I disagree with you. I think they'd be good enough to beat Philly. If Porzingis at 7'3" returns to form and Damian Lillard is on the court, they got a chance.
Okay.
But I just don't think it's going to happen because I don't think the Knicks have enough pieces to get Damian Lillard away from Portland. L.A. does, though. L.A. can get Damian Lillard. L.A. have the parts to get Damian Lillard from Portland.
I hope Magic doesn't do that, Stephen A. Like we spoke about it yesterday. I just feel like we need versatility, and that's why Kawhi is a better fit, in my opinion.
No. You're not asking them to sacrifice Kawhi. What you're saying is if San Antonio doesn't want to do business with you, you wait until next summer when Kawhi Leonard is an unrestricted free agent. And what you do is you turn around and you trade for Damian Lillard now the same way you were going to trade for Kawhi and wait for Paul George or somebody like that. Now what you would do is trade for Damian Lillard and wait for Kawhi.
I just don't think he's worth our young guys, Stephen A. That's my opinion. I'm not a big fan of Dame Lillard. I just feel like if he's not scoring the basketball, perfect example in the New Orleans series, he does nothing else to impact the game as a point guard, Stephen A.
Yeah, but he's a big-time shot maker. Just because he didn't do it against Drew Holiday don't mean he's some scrub all of a sudden. He was getting double-teamed every play. And the brother has proven, I mean, you talk about a brother that's averaging better than 25. You're talking about somebody that can tap his fist and say Dame time, and everybody in the world who knows basketball knows what the hell that means because this brother makes big-time shots. Now, let's not act like Damian Lillard ain't some all-star now. Let's not act like he's just some average player. Let's be clear about that. Gotta run. Appreciate the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. More to Stephen A. Smith Show. More on NBA free agency. More on the president going after Roger Goodell in the NFL in a minute. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Back to the phones we go at 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Reminding you that somewhere early in hour number 2, we'll have the one and only Ice Cube in the house, co-founder for the Big 3 basketball tournament in full effect going on right now in a city near you. Plus, he obviously is a diehard Lakers fan, and so we'll talk to him about some of the changes that have taken place with Laker Nation. But for now, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Jared. You're live with Stephen A. What's going on, Jared?
Hey, Stephen. Thanks for taking my call. Big-time Lakers fan here.
Go ahead.
I actually don't mind the signings that they have, but all this Kawhi stuff's making me a little worried about him, so I really don't want to trade for him now. Mm-hmm. And by the time we get to next year's offseason, I think who we should really try and go after is Klay Thompson, because if you take him away from Golden State and add the best off-ball shooter in the world to LeBron James, that's going to be pretty tough to beat.
Yeah, that is a question. No question about it. No doubt about it. We'll see what happens, though. It's a lot of question marks about the Lakers in terms of what direction they should go into, but nobody's going to deny if they can get their hands on Kawhi Leonard, it's something that they should do. No question. All right? Listen, there's a lot of stuff to get into because, again, if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, what do you do? What do you do about Kawhi Leonard? Do you stop pursuing him and go after Damian Lillard? Do you add Carmelo Anthony to the mix right now as well? What do you do? If you're Houston, what do you do? Do you let Carmelo get away to the Lakers? Do you bring Carmelo on board in H-Town? Nobody can deny that that's something that you might want to do. It should be something that it might be something you should consider doing. All of that stuff and more are things that you got to get into. There's no question about it. Absolutely, positively, no question. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. That is the number to call in. Ice Cube will be up next talking to us about some NBA action, plus your calls on President Trump still going after the National Football League. Will next season be worse than last season? All that and more coming up with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, like I am every weekday. Number 1, 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Reminding you that the one and only Ice Cube is coming on the show in approximately 5 minutes or so. But until then, I'll get back to the calls. Let's go to Sonny. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Sonny?
Hey, Stephen A. How we doing?
I'm all right. Talk to me.
Hey, so I'm from Minnesota, and we had a 13-year playoff drought with the Timberwolves. We finally made it back last year. Now we got this Jimmy Carl Anthony drama, and I'm just wondering what piece is better for us to build around, Jimmy or Carl, and how do we attract other players to kind of build that big 3, big 4 kind of thing?
Clearly the better team for Minnesota to build around is Karl Anthony Towns. His performance in the playoffs notwithstanding, clearly it's best to build around Karl Anthony Towns. Jimmy Butler is older. He's a guard. He's not 6'11" with the requisite skills that Karl Anthony Towns has, even though he has the heart of a lion and he's an all-star and he brings a lot to the table. He's not Karl Anthony Towns, so you'd have to build around Karl Anthony Towns. But Karl Anthony Towns would do well for himself to really buffer his, or rather I shouldn't say buffer. He's got to elevate his level of heart, man. He's got to go for it. He's got to go after it. He's got to do that. He's just got to do that. Because in the playoffs last year against Clint Capella, he was neutralized. Can't have that happen. So they would bode well. And Tom Thibodeau, as great of a coach as he is, it's one of those situations where Tom Thibodeau is going to have to figure out a way to better ingratiate himself with personalities. He's going to have to do something like that. No way around it. Appreciate the call, though. Thank you. Robin, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
What's going, Stephen A. Smith? Big fan. I have 2 questions. Since you're a big Knicks fan, who will you prefer more, Kyrie or Damian Lillard, and why?
Well, the only reason I would pick Damian Lillard over Kyrie for New York is because Damian Lillard has a better history of health. Kyrie is Showtime. I think he'll dance all over everybody at the Garden. He would be a showstopper. He would be box office, no question. But Damian Lillard is a big-time baller himself. The difference is that Damian Lillard, I wouldn't pick Damian Lillard over Kyrie talent-wise. It's just that Kyrie and those knees appear to still be questionable, and as a result, it's a huge question mark for all parties concerned where he's involved, and that's what would be my hesitation.
Okay. And question number 2, since you've been mentioning that the Knicks never had a high flyer player, what do you think about the Knicks going after Zach LaVine, maybe a sign and trade with Tim Hardaway, or any way possible?
Well, Zach LaVine is somebody that's a fabric of the future for the Chicago Bulls. They plan on taking care of him, and using him as a means to help attract folks to the squad. I don't know if it'll work. It remains to be seen. And Zach LaVine's got some stuff to prove. When healthy, he's obviously a skywalker, a slam dunk champion. He could be a showstopper in his own right, but that's in terms of excitement. His game itself still needs to evolve considerably more. So I wouldn't go that far. I like Zach LaVine, but I don't know if I'd want him as the face of my franchise, at least not yet. Appreciate the call. My man, Champ, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Champ. Floor's yours.
How you doing?
I'm all right, man.
I want to throw this out here to the world. The San Antonio Spurs and Kawhi, obviously he doesn't want to be there anymore. Carmelo has 1 year left on his deal with OKC. I'm willing to pay the luxury tax on OKC, figure out, get another team to get involved, send Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi would take a 1 year deal with them in OKC because Paul George and Westbrook from California, they all from California, they may can convince him to stay on for another 2 years with PG and Westbrook contract because they all can opt out in 3 years if they can figure something out. And I think if Kawhi goes to OKC, you talk about the NBA being back, and now OKC will be really on paper, they be right there with Golden State to come out the West to win the NBA championship. What you think about that?
I don't like it. And the reason why I don't like it is because I don't think San Antonio would do it. And the reason why San Antonio would do it is because San Antonio's got to look for the best deal possible. That's a deal that Oklahoma City should do in a heartbeat. You're right about that. I don't think it's a deal that San Antonio would do. Because what are you going to get for his services? If it doesn't involve Paul George or Russell Westbrook, what does Oklahoma City have to give up? And a third team involved for what? Just to help OKC get better? I don't see that happening.
With to move Melo, the reason why I said that, if everybody knows he wants to be in LA and nobody,
I don't know about that. Melo might want to be in Houston.
Right. And you can move him like that. You can move him like that because you can put him in San Antonio. San Antonio can buy Melo out the next day, and he can go right to Houston. And they can give up draft picks and future picks for OKC. Say, hey, we ain't going to get nothing. Let me help my boy Sam Presti out in OKC and stick it to the Lakers because I think the Lakers is a complete sideshow with LeBron James and Magic. I mean, it's just ridiculous over there. And I think I think Magic Johnson.
How is it ridiculous? He hasn't signed yet. They haven't played the game yet. They won 35 games the year after they won 26 games. This is Magic's first full season as the president of basketball operations.
I'm going to tell you why.
How is it ridiculous?
Let me tell you why it's bad. I'm going to tell you why it's bad. If the Cleveland Cavaliers was in the Western Conference last year, how far do you think they would have gone?
I think they would have been out in the first round, assuming they would have made the playoffs.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you said that. You have a guy that's entering his 16th season, and he's chasing. He's going to pass records with the Lakers, which is good PR for Magic. But the Lakers is about winning championships. You have a young core with Ingram, Kuzma, and Lonzo Ball. The direction the Lakers should have gone in, sign Paul George, pay DeMarcus Cousins, get him a trainer, get him fully healthy. Next season, go after Kawhi Leonard and Klay Thompson. Now you have the team of the next decade. Instead, Magic Johnson mortgaged his franchise and made the Lakers into a sideshow like the Clippers. And Joe Lacob did the Jay-Z to Nas and brought in DeMarcus Cousins because Lacob and Golden State are the Lakers, and the Lakers are the Clippers now. And Magic is the biggest sideshow with the most
Are you the same champ that called in last week and said that LeBron James is one of the greatest players ever and that there's no denying that? Are you the same champ that said even in his 15th year, he looked like the best player in the world? You just said this a few days ago.
No, I said the media said that. You can roll the tape back.
No.
He ain't been, the best player was Kevin Durant.
You did say, yeah. But I'm saying, you talk about him and Kevin Durant. You said he's one of the greatest players in the world. Those were your words, which is undeniable, first of all. But secondly, and more importantly, the point that I'm trying to make is that Paul George had already been in OKC. Paul George didn't even talk to the Los Angeles Lakers. Paul George went to sentimental route. Excuse me?
That tells you a lot.
It doesn't tell me anything, because what I'm trying to say to you is that Paul George obviously is tight with Russell Westbrook. The point is you had to get somebody. You act like if it would be better if Magic Johnson and the Lakers got nobody. And the one thing that I know to quote you accurately on is you specifically saying that LeBron James is good for 15 games during the regular season. That's why you said, that's why you said if they go from 35 to 50 games, they're going to the playoffs. And you also said we're about championships, so it's championship or bust. You don't want to hear anything. The Lakers are good enough to be in the conference finals. Did you not say that?
I'm glad you said it. It was a setup, because I want everybody to know this. If he doesn't win, it's bad on Magic and him. And
it doesn't matter. Hold on. You don't get to call a radio show, bro, and say it's a setup, meaning that your comments meant nothing. All right? Because then I'm not going to let you on the show no more. Even though you my boy, I'm still not going to let you on the show no more. You're not going to be on the show anymore if you don't do it. You don't do that. You said, you're quoted as saying that LeBron James and the Lakers are good enough to make it to the conference finals. So it's championship or bust. Now, you also said they were good. He's good enough for 15 games during the season. But today you call up here and say, what would the Cavaliers have been in the Western Conference? So they probably wouldn't have even made the playoffs, which means that now you're trying to change the narrative. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. Call back tomorrow. I'm going to treat you like I treat callers who call up here and lie and try to change up. Goodbye. Bye, Champ. Have a nice day. We cut off Champ, ladies and gentlemen, because Champ, in his zest to hate on LeBron James, tried to create one narrative one day and then change the narrative in a matter of 3 days to something else. No. On this show, we hold you accountable for what you say. You don't get to call up to the Stephen A. Smith Show and say you didn't mean what you said 3 days ago. You just wanted to set up a narrative. You do that when you have your own show, not when you're calling up mine. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. I got my boy Juvie right in front of me, Champ. Yes, I hung up on you because you deserved it, because you lied to our listeners and then tried to change the narrative. You don't do that on this show. You don't have that right. This is not your show. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show. Lee in L.A., you're live at Stephen A. Talk to me.
Oh, my God. Sir, it's an honor to talk to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to put it to you this way. Next to Ray Charles Leonard, and only Ray Charles Leonard, you're the most articulate black man probably in sports. Okay, now we're supposed to be talking about sports, but I want to hit you with the blueprint for the greatest episode of First Take ever. Give me 30 seconds. Because they keep telling these young kids that Jackie Roosevelt Robinson was the first black to break the color barrier. Only pigmentation. Don't be bamboozled. George Herman Ruth did it. The great Bambino did it. Why do I say that? His father's mother was a sister. Look it up. In fact, if you wanted, I'll finance the show. I have my own company out here.
What the hell are you talking about? What does that have to do with anything? We're talking about NBA free agency, and we brought up President Trump attacking the NFL, and now you call up here with this. What does that have to do with the subject at hand, sir?
Huh? You feel me? Rarely do you get Stephen A. on the phone. Rarely.
It doesn't matter. Hold on. It don't matter. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the love and support. But you don't call up to this show to create the subject you want to talk about. You talk about the subjects I'm talking about. So what do you have to say about the subjects we were talking about before you called up here saying something that no one understands what the hell you're talking about because no one was paying attention to that? Try again another day. Have a nice day, man. Tony in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, Stephen, Jerry West has a ton of money and a ton of players and draft picks, and he's got to do whatever he can to block Magic Johnson, and something big going to happen because the Lakers rejected him, and now he has to vindicate himself. So something big can happen with the Clippers a couple of days.
I don't know if anything big is going to happen with the Clippers in a couple of days. I can see something happening next summer. I don't think the Clippers are in a position for anything big to happen with them today.
Well, if they trade for a one-year guy and renegotiate during the season, they can block the Lakers for next summer, and that's what he has to do.
Okay. We'll see what they do. What they told me was that their goal is to get to the $60 million mark. That way they'd be able to make sure that they'd be able to get a max player. Their target is Kawhi Leonard because they believe if Kawhi Leonard is a free agent next summer and if he isn't already on the Lakers, they have just as good of a chance as the Lakers to get Kawhi Leonard. That's their plan. That's their plan.
Invisible on the local news, and he will be invisible unless they do something.
I got you. I understand. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Camille, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Camille?
Stephen A., how's it going, man? Long time listener, big New York fan also, man. Sprewell was actually my favorite player.
Thank you.
The reason for my call, Stephen A., I have two questions. So I know that you were talking about Kyrie and then who we should be going after as our next point guard. I think Kyrie would honestly be better for us. I know that the knee issues is definitely an issue, but at the same time, I think he would be good for us. As opposed to going after Jimmy Butler, why not go after Klay Thompson also? I think putting a team around Porzingis, Klay Thompson, and Kyrie, that'll be great for our team. What do you think about that?
Well, you talk about putting Kristaps Porzingis and Kyrie around who?
Well, we'll put Kyrie, Kristaps Porzingis, and Klay Thompson as opposed to going after like Jimmy Butler or something.
Well, here's the problem. On which team?
Like Tim Hardaway Jr. or somebody to free up cap space for 2 max contracts.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you can pull that off. If you're the Knicks, you can't pull that off. If you're the Lakers, you already got LeBron James, so you no longer have space for 2 max players. You don't have that going on now. That's not what's happening. So it doesn't work that way.
So my second question is, I know I only have you for a little bit, but my second question is, I know that Melo was under D'Antoni before, and I just don't see him playing in his offense again. I think that if he goes over to LA, that would be a better fit for him. I think that he'll embrace the role better with LeBron as opposed to like when he was with OKC.
I don't think Melo has nearly as much leverage as he used to have. And I think that if he ended up in Houston, he's going to have to capitulate to what worked for them last season. He's going to have to capitulate and do whatever worked for them last season. That's what it's going to require. Plain and simple.
I think if he goes to Houston, it's that he couldn't coexist with Russell Westbrook, a ball-dominant player, and then Paul George also. Wouldn't that be much of the same if he goes to Houston? He's playing with James Harden and Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul...
No, it's not the same. The reason why is because the coaches are different and D'Antoni plays a different, far more up-tempo style that a floor general like Chris Paul has acclimated himself nicely to along with James Harden. Whereas in Oklahoma City, it's more of a struggle for Billy Donovan to pull that off with the squad and the roster that he had in place. That's what I would say. But I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let's go to Joe in Manhattan. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Joe.
Hey, good afternoon, Stephen A. Thanks for taking my call again.
Go ahead.
Couple of quick questions for you. Help me with my basketball knowledge here. Was Scott Perry involved in any of those really good teams in Sacramento, the ones that like went to the Western Conference Finals against against the Lakers?
No. He played a lesser role. Where he really made his bones was being a direct assistant to Joe Dumars, the GM and president of basketball operations in Detroit, when they won the 6 straight conference finals and back-to-back NBA finals appearances and won an NBA championship with Coach Larry Brown. That was the big deal with Scott Perry. That's his claim to fame.
So the times when you hear people talking about him or you hear them talking about Sacramento, and I can't get it out of my head that Sacramento stinks for a long time. So that was never.
No, that wasn't him. He wasn't a part of them at that time. No, he was not.
Anything good in Sacramento, then I guess. My second question is, if you were a GM on the Eastern Conference right now, would you feel more inclined to kind of wait out this Western Conference before you try to make big splashy moves and spending a lot of money in free agency? I mean, you're kind of setting yourself up to be, second best. I'm just curious what your take is on that.
In the Eastern Conference? Well, I would tell you this. If I'm Boston, I wouldn't. Because if I'm Boston, I'm knocking on the door. If I'm Boston, you got to remember something. This is what people are missing about the East versus the West. It only really matters when it comes to the finals. Like, for example, if you're going at one another in the Eastern Conference, that's parity. If you're going after one another in the Western Conference, that's parity. Now, clearly the Boston Celtics are the superior team to everybody else. But don't you think that the Boston Celtics would have given the Golden State Warriors a run for their money?
I would like to think so.
All right, so if you did that without Kyrie and without Gordon Hayward, and now you have them this year, you have length and athleticism and perimeter shooting and defense as your staple. You can't give them a run for your money when you see how Golden State struggled with Houston?
Say that I guess Boston is really the only team in the East that has an opportunity because Golden State is just so good at forcing you to play their game. They bait you into playing their same 3-point game as them, and nobody can just keep up with it, man.
You could say that, and I don't think you're wrong. But my response to that would be, wait a minute. Boston defends, and they have length at these positions to defend against opposing perimeter shots, and that can't be ignored.
True. This is true. I was just curious on your take on that, Stephen. I appreciate you taking my call as always, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, man.
You do the same. Thank you so much. By the way, let's go to Daniel. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Daniel. Daniel, go ahead. I'm sorry. Chris, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. Oh, I apologize. He's on the phone. He called in. He is here. Co-founder of the Big Three. Diehard Laker fan, rap artist extraordinaire, actor, director, writer, the one and only Ice Cube is in the house. What's up, big time? How you doing, man?
Yeah. What's up, Steven? Man, I apologize for being late on this call, but you know, when you got a league, you got to put out some fires.
I understand. Don't even worry about it, bro. Don't even worry about it. First of all, talk to me about the Big Three. When it started this year, and how's it doing thus far?
I mean, we started June 22nd. In Houston, it was great. 16,000 came out. The mayor, community leaders came out and really was, supportive of the league, which is great. Then we hit Chicago. We got about 15,000 out of there, and it was great. Great energy. That was our second time going there. Now we're in Oakland. Tonight, week 3. We got some great matchups. We got the undefeated Tri-State versus undefeated Power. So that's going to be a great game. And it's rolling, man. Great viewership, over 1 million people watching on Fox. So that's great. A lot of viewers on Facebook. So the league is moving in the right direction.
And for those who don't know, these are not just basketball players playing 3-on-3 playing 3-on-3 basketball. These are former NBA players that are part of this. Cuttino Mobley, Corey Maggette, Amari Stoudemire, Nate Robinson, Jermaine O'Neal, just to name a few. Because you're talking about the week 3, they'll feature that matchup for first place between those guys, Power and Tri-State, like you just highlighted. Talk to our viewers real quick. What the purpose of Big Three? It's not just about basketball. It's about former players still showing that they've got some skills. Talk to me about your vision for the Big Three tournament.
Well, to me, it's a great league. Guys, sometimes they look up and find themselves retired from the NBA. They didn't even know it. They just never got the call. So that don't mean they're not ballers no more. They still want to play. They still want to get down, but they didn't have a league to be able to play at a high level. Mm-hmm. And so the Big Three is that league. 3-on-3 basketball is on the rise. It's an Olympic sport, this Olympics 2020. Mm-hmm. Every country is getting serious about 3-on-3 basketball. And we see this as one day it can be, like the World Cup is with soccer. This could be that on 3-on-3 basketball with leagues we're trying to start in China and South America.
Ice Cube right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Keep it up, my brother. I've been watching. I'm going to continue to watch, no question about it. And I'm definitely going to check it out tonight as well, even though I'm live here in Vegas for the NBA Summer League. You're talking to Ice Cube and Stephen A. right here on ESPN Radio. Ice Cube, I needed to ask you about your diehard Lakers because, listen, LeBron James is a Los Angeles Laker. You're one of the few people in the world that I knew that say, okay, if he wants to come on board, we'll welcome him aboard. But in the same breath, I don't mind rebuilding. I don't mind building from the ground up. It ain't always going out there and getting that marquee star. How are your thoughts now that LeBron James is officially a Los Angeles Laker?
I'm happy. It puts us back on the map, so to speak. He's a great player, the greatest player definitely in the NBA right now. So who wouldn't want to have him? I think, I like what Magic is doing, with the Rondo move and the Lance, because these are guys that, are not going to necessarily bow down to LeBron. They're their own men and their own players. And I think we need that. LeBron, he carries a lot of weight in the locker room. So you need other veteran guys who can help him with that load. And it's not just turns into the LeBron show, which is cool.
You know what, Ice Cube, I hear where you're coming from, but what about those who will look at it and say, one thing that LeBron has proven, particularly with his former teams, is that you need shooters. Last time I checked, Lance Stevenson and Rondo and JaVale McGee ain't shooters. What do you say to that, man? Especially when you got the big three, you got the big three league, and it's almost a damn priority that you got to be able to shoot the rock to play in that league. What are your thoughts about the fact that he doesn't really have any shooters with him right now?
Well, I think, Magic and Rob Pelinka, they still got some work to do. You got to put a few shooters around the guy. And, but, you also got to defend, and you also, you got the Golden State Warriors to defend with. So, I think you definitely needed to put guys around him that had their own mind and not guys that was just going to, bow down how LeBron wants it done. I think that's important for the younger players like the Kuzmas and the Alonzo Ball and Ingram, is to see that it doesn't have to turn into the LeBron show. And if it does, it's probably not going to work. Y'all got to bring y'all game too.
Ice Cube, one of my last questions to you is going to be this. I found, obviously, the news about the Lakers pursuing Kawhi Leonard, trying to talk to the Spurs about working out a deal, a trade, in order to get Kawhi Leonard, who wants to be a Laker. In the same breath, you got Portland facing a dilemma. They got swept by the New Orleans Pelicans, and it's a situation right now where, okay, we could stop pursuing Kawhi Leonard and just wait for him to come to L.A. next summer as a free agent and go after Damian Lillard, because Portland may look to make some changes, or we can continue to pursue Kawhi Leonard and ignore trying to go after Damian Lillard. What would Ice Cube, the diehard Laker fan, propose of two scenarios?
You go after Damian if you can get him. And, both of those players, I think you got to go after. I don't think you can sit back and wait. Those are two players that will definitely make you better. So on both of those, I think you have to be aggressive. Got to be aggressive.
Cube, I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. And good luck with the game tonight and the whole bit. I'm going to be watching, my man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Appreciate it, man. Everybody check us out.
Absolutely. Big Three. I'll be talking about it throughout the show today. Got a game tonight. Big Threes. Week 3 will take place Friday. That's tonight, July 6th at the Oracle Arena in Oakland. Tickets are available at big3.com/tickets. Fans can watch the Big Threes Week 3 in Oakland live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Facebook and at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. So make sure y'all tune in. Thanks again to the great Ice Cube for being on with yours truly, Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Chris. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen A. It's Chris from Long Island. Huge fan. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, thank you.
I just wanted to say, had two questions. So first with the Lakers, I hear all these Lakers fans calling up saying it's championship or bust. As a Knicks fan, I got.
Well, first of all, you haven't heard that. You've heard that from one guy. His name is Champ. He's my buddy based out of Detroit, who is the ultimate LeBron hater. He has no objectivity whatsoever when it comes to LeBron. He just looks for an excuse. And this is my man. I love him like a brother, and I still hung up on him. And you know why I hung up on him, Chris? Because he called just a couple of days ago and said LeBron is good for 15 games a year. He's good for to get this team to the playoffs. The Lakers are good enough to get to the conference finals, and good enough to win the West. There's no excuses to set the narrative up to put LeBron behind the 8 ball, but then in the same breath turned around and tried to say that the Cleveland Cavaliers, led by LeBron, may not have even made the playoffs in the Western Conference, let alone won a first round series. So he was contradicting himself. And then when he got caught, he admitted that he just lied to try to create the narrative to put pressure and hate on LeBron. And my point to you is, nah, we ain't having that. Okay? That's what he tried to do. You understand? And so you got people that's him doing that. It's not the other way around.
Yo, it wasn't just Chad. I've heard it on other talk shows too that I've been listening to when I'm driving. And even making the playoffs out of the first round, like, I don't know if that team is going to do it. And trading for Kawhi, like, why would you leverage your whole future like that? Like, I'm happy with the way the Knicks offseason has gone. I mean, Kevin Knox, let's see how Porter goes. I really wanted Porter, but hopefully Kevin Knox is now inspired by all those Knicks fans cheering, we want Porter, and steps up, and hopefully Frank comes back and steps up.
I got you. We'll see. But so much hope. Knicks haven't given us a reason to hope, to be honest with you. We got to hope that Porzingis gets healthy. That's really what this all comes down to. William, you're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, William?
Hello.
Hi there. You're live on air, buddy.
Okay, hey, Butler wants out of Minnesota. Him and Towns don't get along. What do you think about Butler for Kawhi, and then the Spurs go after Irvin because Butler and Irvin like to play together? They both just got a year left. Everybody's got a year left on their contract.
I don't know what you're proposing, sir. I don't understand your question.
Well, what do you think about the Spurs trading Kawhi for Butler, and then the Spurs go out and get Irvin, since he and Butler want to play together, and Kawhi plays with Minnesota for a year?
Because if you're Minnesota, why would you give up Butler for Kawhi, who's going to leave for L.A. in a year?
Well, it sounds like Butler's going to leave anyway.
That's true. That's true as well. But if Kawhi is giving everybody the impression he's not going to play for anybody but L.A., where does that leave you?
Well, it would leave you with maybe Towns and Kawhi would get along a little better than Butler and Kawhi Towns do.
Okay. I don't see it happening, sir. I think that's wishful thinking, but I don't blame you for wishing. We're all entitled to our dreams. Let's go to Angel in Queens. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A. Smith, what's going on, man? Queens in the building, man.
No doubt. What's up?
Listen, man, I just want to say, are we going to see Stephen A. Smith do the Shiggy dance? I'm just saying, as a big fan, I would love to see you do that.
The Shiggy?
Second, yeah, you know Shiggy. You know, he's been doing the impersonations of you.
Yeah, but what did that have to do with dancing?
Oh, man, he's got this new dance that's out. He's dancing to Drake's new song.
I don't do the dancing. I leave the dancing to other people, but I will tell you he's hilarious. That's why I put him on my Instagram page. When he's imitating me, he is hysterical. I give him a lot of love for that. Plus, his Queens in the building. He's from Farmers. I got to give him love. That's only 5 minutes away from where I grew up. Got to give him love.
Yes, sir. And I'm from Jamaica, man, so I had to show love. But one more thing I want to say. Kevin Knox, is it bad to compare him to Giannis Antetokounmpo? That's kind of who I see him looking.
I certainly don't see that. I didn't see that at Kentucky. It remains to be seen. But when you talk about the Greek Freak, I don't see any comparisons between the Greek Freak and Kevin Knox.
Okay.
I don't see that. I think that's going entirely too far.
You don't see him growing into a player that can have that
I don't know.
type of skill?
I don't know. I gotta wait. I don't see that.
Okay, one more thing, man. Listen, LeBron, I know you went to L.A. Melo, I'm a big fan when he's on the Knicks. To be honest with you, his best chance is Houston. But if he goes to L.A., LeBron could kind of, be that bug in his ear, man. He never had nobody like LeBron.
Are you talking about Melo?
Next level. Yeah, talking about Melo.
Yeah. That's fine, but keep in mind also, we're talking about a situation where Melo could end up in Houston with CP3 and Harden.
I got you, man. But you know what? they're not gonna get out the West. I see it happening, but they're not gonna get out the West.
Well, let me ask you a question. Either scenario, LA or New York or Houston, they may not get out of the way if you talk about Golden State standing in their way. So if that's the case, why not go to Houston?
Well, is he going to get more money signing with Houston, or is
he gets to keep more of his money because they have no state income tax in Texas.
Knowing Melo and his pattern of signing, I think he's going to go with Houston.
I got you. I appreciate it, but I got to run. I appreciate the call, man. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! And let's get back to the phones before we get on out of here real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to Brad. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Brad.
Stephen A., you are a hard guy to get a hold of, man. Let me tell you.
Thousands of calls an hour.
Go ahead. Before I make my point, I want to express why I think you are one of the most underappreciated voices of talk radio, period, sports or not sports. When you have a fact to put out there, you say, ladies and gentlemen, this is a fact. When you have a thought or a feeling, you say, this is my feeling, this is the way I look at this. Instead of all these other guys out there that just put everything out there as if it's a fact, whether it is or isn't, I want to tell you, more than anything else, when you hear something from the other side of the road, you actually open your ears, think about it, and think about how that could possibly, be a truth. And I just want to say I appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you.
So here's the thing, kind of going along with that. I hear all these folks going crazy about LeBron, and he's worth 15 games, and Jeff Van Gundy, love that dude. But he's saying, I don't even know if this team can make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thing. In the last 3 or 4 years, how much have we talked about the Lakers in the offseason?
Not at all. So the fact that we're even talking about them shows it validates LeBron's value. I know exactly what you're trying to say.
They win.
They win.
Right now, they're winning the offseason. Hey, let me ask you this. You made a point a few days ago about Dan Gilbert and the value of the Cleveland franchise. Just dropped a couple of zeros off there.
Yeah, you're right.
Magic's a businessman.
No question. And he has to be a businessman because Jeannie Buss and the Buss family are mom and pop shop compared to the billionaires that own some of these NBA teams. Got to run, though, Brad. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Phil, you're live with Stephen A. You only got 30 seconds, though. Go ahead.
What's good, role model?
I'm good.
Talk to me. Let me say this. Let me say this real quick. Okay, what you think about Melo? Just say if he took the Marcus Cousins route going to Golden State, chasing that championship. He made all his money. You know what I mean? He getting up there in age.
Wouldn't bother me. I just don't think he could get the money because they just gave it to Cousins. What's your next point?
Okay, I just want to make a statement, man. I know it's blasphemy. I don't want to tick you off. But my Cincinnati Bengals is going to make a statement this year.
Oh, God. You have a nice day, Phil. You have a nice day. I mean, can Marvin Lewis win a playoff game for the first time in 15 years? 15 years, and he hasn't won one single playoff game, and you're going to call up here and say that Cincinnati Bengals are going to make noise? Blasphemy, Phil. Blasphemy. But I got love for you, bro. I appreciate your support. Talk to y'all in 20. Actually, enjoy the weekend. I'm on vacation.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.